Great stuff, great stuff. Nice to see that we're back. It's 8 o'clock. Ironically, how quickly time does fly. Welcome back to another View Live, and today we're going to be continuing with our topic of earlier, which is racism, after it abruptly ended just as we were getting into the topic, because it turns out you can't have an Instagram Live for longer than an hour. I didn't know that. So I have to wonder how all of these other guys do it. Need to inquire about that. But yeah, as everyone comes on, we are going to quickly delve into the topic as William joins and Amy joins into racism. So let's get started. Hey Elena, hey Amy. Yo, you there?
Yo, I think I'm frozen.
Yeah, your video is loading. It's taking a while.
Can you see me?
I can't see you, no.
Oh, what's going on here? Yo, Mika. Yo, Elena. You know what? I'll come off and come back on again.
Okay, cool. Cool. So, hey guys, welcome. I think I already said this, but nah, who cares? This is the reintroduction into our View Lives, where we're going to go back onto the topic of racism, which we were talking about last time, before we were rudely interrupted, because Instagram Lives can only be an hour long, with my co-host, William Owami, or
Yo,
Big
yo,
Up.
yo.
So, I don't know where we left off, actually.
Um, we were talking about beliefs and like neo-colonialism. Basically, we were talking about that sort of thing these days because you were talking about Jamaica and the Windrush. So
Yeah.
that's basically then it cut off.
Hmm. So, let's talk about neocolonialism, because I know that's a topic that you know a lot about and you can go on. So let's go. Define neocolonialism for our viewers.
Listen. You put me on the hot seat, bro. You put me on the hot seat. But I guess in layman's terms, neocolonialism is basically um, tactics of colonizing other nations, but in a new way, rather than the old sort of colonialism, which was just straight up, we're going to colonize you and we're here to just colonize you. It's different now. It's more of like certain tactics which are put in place politically and economically to colonize people.
Hmm. So what would that include today? Where do we see neocolonialism happening?
That's the thing. So the first thing I was going to do was talk about France or any of those other countries. And every time I keep thinking to first of all talk about other countries apart from the UK. So we're going to start with the UK. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, the Commonwealth is one of the biggest examples of neocolonialism. So basically, that was created after I feel like no, I think it was 1926. I think the Commonwealth was created, and it was created in an attempt to make it seem like Britain had moved past governing other nations. So there's 53 members of the Commonwealth, and all of them were former colonies of Britain in itself. And guess what? Guess what's really surprising about the
What?
Commonwealth? The
That
Queen
they're
is
all
the head.
colonized.
No, the Queen is the head of the Commonwealth. So that denotes immediately that denotes a hierarchy. There's a hierarchy there. So what it really means is that those nations aren't all equal.
Yeah.
Like they're still under the Queen, but it's just in a different way. They're still under Britain. It's just now in a different way, and it's called the Commonwealth, which is actually just an excuse to source materials and resources from African countries in just a new modern 21st century fashion.
So what do you say about that media and the recent showings that apparently our queen, or I say our queen because we know we're from England in Britain, that she bowed towards the king and queens of African nations, of prime ministers, and shook hands with them. What do you have to say about that?
I I actually haven't seen that, you know. I actually have not
Okay.
seen that, so I cannot comment on that. I can't comment
Okay.
on that. But all I
Yeah.
can say is that anything to do with the Commonwealth isn't really common. And don't you just find the name patronizing as well? Like, deep it, like they're saying that all the wealth amassed by those former colonies are now common. So
Mm.
they've taken all your wealth basically and amassed it all together so that you don't have any ownership over your own wealth.
Mm.
So it's a very patronizing name, and that's an example of like neo-colonialism, like in the 21st century from the UK. Because I know a lot of people say, "Oh, give me examples of the UK, do this and that about the UK," but this is the UK. Like every time you think of the Commonwealth, that is an example of neo-colonialism.
Mm. And how would you say this is strongly tied with like the racism that we're seeing right now?
Just
I
in
would
general, like
assume it directly is because it's like direct oppression taking over a place, removing people and creating a hierarchy, like such as the HKU hierarchy that we're seeing in like Hong Kong, where they're saying Chinese are above whites and other people who are colonializing and, you know, as you put it, neo-colonializing areas and basically creating this hierarchy. It all comes down to racism in the end.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. That it's all under the same thing: slavery, colonialism. I guess slavery was a bit worse, but they all come under the same sort of branch of race and racism in the first place.
So, on the topic of, well, I believe it was racism that we started off with.
Yeah,
What do you have to say about the riots that are happening right now?
you're
Well, not
talking
right
about
now, that happened
Like the EDL
earlier.
one.
Yeah, like the EDL one.
No.
With all of those
Um,
guys who came up and they were like, oh, yeah, yeah, let's fight, but
And what,
hypocrites.
there's not much to say about that apart from racists exposing themselves as racist, really. They would try to be provocateurs. They try to, provoke um, the Black Lives Matter movement into causing some sort of violence, which never actually happened. And it just shows you, like, if you didn't know already, what we actually have to face. Because a lot of people would be
Yeah.
denying that there's any sort of opposition to fighting racism. But now you can clearly see the people at the forefront of white supremacy that want white supremacy to stay. And it's those people from the EDL movement, the Tommy Robinsons of the world. Those type of people are the people that want to uphold white supremacy in society.
Hmm. And how would you say that we, as young people, are to step correct, or to move in the direction in order to attack this, to at least have a goal of how we should move about it? Because obviously, if we have protests and they're the ones getting involved, the media is going to look at it and say, oh, there are thugs there, or oh, there are people attacking the police and causing riots. But really, it's them who are in the crowds causing it, stirring it up to make it look bad. So, how do we address this?
I think we just have to educate ourselves. And it's going to seem like I'm being repetitive, but we really do truly have to educate ourselves on the matter and understand exactly what we're dealing with. Little instances of explicit racism, of people attacking black people or saying I hate black people isn't the main issue. We have to understand that it's something that's systemic, something that's institutional, something that's been deeply ingrained into the fragment of the being of these westernized countries like the UK and the US. So we have to understand those things first of all. And once we understand that it's something that took 400 years to do, it's going to take a very long process to sort of undo all those things. So as I said, yeah, just education, adding race and the colonial past of the British Empire, not the sugar-coated past that made it seem like colonialism was good for all the colonies, but the real truth and the truth of the matter, adding those elements into the sort of standardized GCSE exams in history, that will really sort of spark people to really rethink their opinions on of the British Empire.
Hmm. You started to cut off at the end, but otherwise, I feel like that was fairly solid. On the topic of education, then, since I believe that interviews, step views, and step lives, what we want to do is we want to engage our youth, engage the audience, and also allow them to share some knowledge, share what they know. I just want to quickly say that everyone watching this, feel free to join in. If you want to appear, if you want to say a point, please make sure that, like, please say in the comments, like, yeah, I want to join, because I can't see the actual requests. So yeah, make sure that happens. And also, was it the education system that we have now, the curriculum? I was saying this earlier, that it only has a Black History Month, and everything is put into like sets and sections, and it's like, oh, we're going to look at Black history for a day, or we're going to look at this person. Do you not feel that this is just subjecting everyone to a box or a time period, and it's saying, oh yeah, for this time we'll look at your Black rights, and now we'll go back to us? Surely there should be a whole curriculum thing.
Like you've hit the nail on the head there. Like that is so correct. Like the fact that we only have a month to, think about our whole history is absolutely disgraceful. And I know people will celebrate it and be like, it's great that we have October. It's great to learn about Black History Month. It's actually quite disgraceful that we've been given a month by the same people that oppressed us to celebrate ourselves and feel happy. Like I say, it's one of the same things as like Notting Hill Carnival, um, where we're given a day, we're given a bank holiday because they clearly accept what has gone on. But then I guess the way we use it isn't very productive. We use it as a thing where we just, people go there to catch wines or do things like that instead of really thinking about why Carnival is actually a day and thinking about how to um, sort of use it to identify with ourselves, understand who we are, and move forward.
Exactly. I'm just trying to read the comments at this moment. I see your sister said, and the media, like your sister and Tyrell are doing a really good job showing this actually. They say, and the media, yeah, the media was trying to downplay it. They aren't calling them racist, but it's counter opposition. And it's so true. It's so true because what's happening with all of these riots, what's happening with all of these things, it's being shown like, in fact, every time I remember there was this white guy who went into a mosque and he shot the whole mosque down and they said he was mentally ill. But whenever there's a Black incident that happens, they always say, oh, it was gang related. And we're always seeing this. It's the same old story that, oh, if it's a Black person, it's gang related. And it's put on in order to make us think that, oh, they're lower. And I feel like the media is the number one thing that needs to be targeted. But that's my opinion. I don't know where you think it starts.
No, I agree with you. I think the media is one of the biggest things because that's what propagates all the information to the wider community. Like you can have these thoughts and ideas on your own in your house, doing whatever you want to do, but when it gets propagated, out to the wider community, and they're fed with information which is inaccurate or biased under the guise that it's impartial, that is when you have these issues with the media actually sort of changing the perceptions of people. And this was done quite a fair bit, as I said, in like the civil rights movement during those times. The depictions of Black people were lazy. Me and my sister actually the other day were watching some of the advertisements that used to go on in the 1960s, and what we saw was the depiction of Black males looking lazy, drunk, tired. They had big red lips, very dark skin, gollywog looking, and then when they saw a lighter female skinned girl who was dancing around, they started becoming like sort of like sexual predators, very happy that like this was going on. So I think the media has a very big part to play because if you think about it, that's what our grandparents are watching. That's what our parents grew up with, looking at images and videos of Black people behaving in such a manner when it's not accurate. And that really would have changed the opinions of a lot of people in society and really engineered that racial bias to kick in to make you think that that's what all Black people do and that's what all Black people are like, when that's not the case. That is literally just a caricature used to create that inferiority complex in Black people and create that superiority complex in white people.
I remember reading this book by Miles Davis. He has this book where he talks about how he was growing up and how he had to, like, his mom wanted him to go and learn violin and go to some posh prestigious school at the time, and how he suffered racism and how he felt that he couldn't mix with those people. So he went and he decided that he would learn trombone, which was seen as, I don't know, uneducated, I guess, and he would hang out with those guys playing jazz. And a lot of Black music, a lot of Black entertainment was depicted as like uneducated, lower class, and they were being pushed down because of it. And even the blackface movement of media that was happening, I can't remember what else they called it. I think it was just blackface, and where they would dress up as Black people and play jazz as a comedy and do all of these things that would represent Black people in a bad light. It showed us that it's just, ultimately, it's been engraved from that time, and it's now put us in this frame, this state of mind. Hence why I think it's up to, I think personally, although it shouldn't be on us to make this change, I feel like we need to try and show Black people in a good light. We need to do our best to prove the stereotypes wrong. And it's hard for me to say that because obviously it shouldn't be our place to do that.
Hey, I might have to agree. I think that's respectability politics. I think you're touching on respectability politics, which is where you feel like you have to go the extra mile to change people's opinion of you, even though that's what they decided to do on purpose. They know that not every Black person is inferior, not every Black person is in a certain way, but it was done in a certain way systematically to engineer that bias and that perception in you. So I think there's no need to sort of go the extra mile to sort of change people's perceptions of you that wasn't even created by you yourself. I think you should necessarily just do what you want to do, whether that aligns with what they perceive of you or what they don't perceive of you. I feel like you should just be you, because I think it's respectability politics to be sort of showing the oppressor that you're not one of what they've deemed to be inferior. You're something else. That's not our problem. That's their problem.
I find it funny what Tyrell says. He says exactly, a lot of white people genuinely think that we live in huts. And it shows, doesn't it? It shows that people will literally see what's handed to them on a phone screen, what's handed to them on their TV screens, and they'll say, oh yeah, look, it's on TV, let's believe it. This even happened, I believe it was called Operation Mockingbird, that happened in the Cold War. And what that meant is that all of the adverts on TV, they would be used to make people think, oh, this is what was happening in the war, and this is what was happening at the time. And America's such a great country, they never done anything bad to Vietnam. And people actually believed this, and people felt patriotic. They felt more a part of it, and they felt that they were doing the right thing, when really they were being subliminally, or not even subliminally, they were being directly manipulated, and they couldn't tell it.
Exactly. And that's one of the big devices of a racist system, and also an authoritarian government, is controlling the news, the propaganda. I think, yeah, you were in class when we learned about Animal Farm and all those things.
Yeah.
And it's funny how there's so many things from that book, Animal Farm by George Orwell, that is still applicable today in society. When you think about how the kids from a very young age are indoctrinated, and you can see that through, like, everyone in society is indoctrinated to believe that, you know, white is more superior, lighter skinned people are more beautiful. So that's one way. You can see that the news has been censored in a certain way. It may not seem like it's in the same sort of sphere as China, where they have like the intranet or something. They have like a whole different internet, but it's still done in a certain way. For example, yesterday, the BBC News, which claims to be impartial, it sort of had a headline which said that the counter protesters are protesting against, like, they had a little scuffle or something with the BLM movement, but like, we all know that all the BLM protests were called off yesterday, so that actually wasn't the case. So it was sort of impartial. It was sort of partisan in a way, because it was sort of making it look like, oh, like the BLM protesters had a part to play in this, when we really didn't. So there's just subtle things like that which are just able to sort of infect the minds of the average person who is a bit politically uneducated and doesn't really look further to see what's really going on. Those things are very dangerous.
Even George Orwell, funny do you note him, he was writing all of these things, and a lot of the stuff that he wrote under the name George Orwell. But a lot of people hated him and wanted him taken down. So he wrote under the pseudonym of George Orwell, when in reality his name was Sir Eric Arthur Blair. Because obviously if he had got found out of his position of who he was, then people would come after him to get him. And it's funny because this is what happens in media, the manipulation that goes in, and people start believing these things immediately. There are so many news networks. There are so many outlets from different spectrums of the political system, where they decide to go all the way around, and they decide that on each and every single platform that these people, the Black people, we are thugs, and we are the ones causing the problems. It's funny how you can be on a whole range of spectrums, how you can have multiple outlets, and they're all saying the same thing.
Yeah. I really have no words. For the media's involvement. Like, the media's involvement is so apparent and it's so blatant. And while some other medias, like Fox News, for example, may make it seem like they're more Wait 1 second, I just been distracted. while while other news stations like Fox News, for example, will seem like way more partisan than like other news stations, it doesn't mean that because BBC or CNN are less partisan than Fox that they're all of a sudden not partisan. They still are partisan. They're still owned by the government, I think. So you still have to look at all those things and look at all those aspects of who owns these sort of news sources. What information are they trying to tell me? Like you have to look at all those things. When you, for example, I did like history. I do history A level right now. And when you look at a source, not only are you looking at the content, you're looking at the provenance. The provenance is such a key part that people don't seem to think about. Who is telling me this information? Okay, fine, I've got the information here, but who's telling me, and what do they want me, and what image do they want me to have in my head? That's the questions that you have to really be asking. Who wants me to have these images in my head of what's going on? I'm gonna try and sort of emancipate myself from that control and that hold that they have on me psychologically. And those are the type of things that we have to be thinking about.
It's funny because even in the Trump campaign that was coming up and a few other presidential campaigns, we see the use of the Sinclair script, which was basically the script that all of the news reporters were given. And there's actually a hilarious video on it. And if you play all of the news networks and what they were saying around this time, they're saying the same thing into your heads to try and get you into the idea that, oh yeah, this guy's a great guy. And how they do it is that they subliminally tell you, oh yeah, so this is the facts and this is what's going on. This is what you should believe. And they put in their opinions so that you like start hearing it. And when loads of people start saying it, what do? You listen. And it's crazy how blatant the manipulation is, and yet still people don't use their minds. And it's really hard because we shouldn't have to say, oh, let me look at this source that I'm being told when it's a news network. If it's supposed to be news, it should be news, not my opinions and news, or what they're telling you to think and news. It should just be news, which I think is really, really manipulative.
Very manipulative.
I remember Selena, who's here, and I'm just on a shout out to, hey, she told me, because she lives in America, and she was showing me this document that shows that Disney own loads of the news networks in America, and have such a control over so many different outlets of our information, our media, our entertainment. I think we should post a lot more of this stuff just to show the dynamic and what is actually being controlled. And it's crazy that everything seems to go to one place, or not one place, but it seems to go to one type of person. And that's the person who says, what can I get out of this? Who is my audience and what can I profit off of? If my audience like to see black people killing black people because that's how we can profit off of it, and if they like to appeal to the hearts and get people involved, then that's what they will show. They're not going to show the truth.
And one thing that just goes back to capitalism, and I was talking about this yesterday on Snapchat, like capitalism and the importance of maintaining that profit over people, and that's why in a capitalist system you get these things like racism coming up, you get inequality, and you get like propaganda being used as a weapon, being weaponized by the elite, because it's all about profits. It's all about how can I get this advantage over you economically? And I don't care how I'm going to get this advantage over you. As seen with the trading of slaves, I'm just going to find a way in which I can get an advantage over you economically. And that's what's being seen today with the media as well. Rich elite, people like, I think, Rupert Murdoch, who owns Sky News and like B-Sky B,
yeah,
they get the ultimate choice in terms of what they want to promote to their audience. And that just seems like that's it at the end of the day. You can choose what you want to really just propagate to your audience, and they don't seem to realize that actually this is being puppeteered by one of the elite people in society. This isn't just some sort of impartial network that you just see. This is actually being puppeteered by somebody behind the scenes.
We have a question by Aksan. Is that how you say the name?
Yeah.
Aksan, do you think you should solve all problems that have racist ideas attached to it all at once, or go one by one and tackle the major racist issue first? For example, police brutality, and then go one by one.
Do you want to answer that first, or?
Okay, I think in my opinion, I mean, why not? In my opinion, I don't think you can like really solve all of them at once, because you can't change a mindset of a person through rioting, through all of these things. You can give them your opinion, you can give them your view of it, and you can tell them what the answer should be through your logic, your reason. But ultimately, I think it's up to them. And I think that change comes over time. I don't think you can target everything at once, because I don't see how that would work. But I see that if I were to go to someone and say, for example, you know what, police brutality is a real thing. And you know why? Because this reason, this reason, this reason. And you know, it's affected me. And if I can change that one person, then that person who's in the in-group of other people who didn't see a problem with it, then they can be inspired to change other people.
Yeah, I have to disagree with you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's fine.
I'm so sorry.
That's fine.
It was a good 1 minute monologue, but I'm gonna have to disagree.
Okay, go on.
I feel like even with that, like you could say, okay, like you can have a good cop, and for example, they can inspire people, but at the end of the day, there's a hierarchy in that whole space, and whatever the person who's upholding the hierarchy wants is what's going to happen. So one good cop, in a bad environment, is just going to become a bad cop at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, no,
so
I agree. Yeah,
I think we can tackle all racist issues with one answer. If I would like to answer that question, I think educating, I'm going to say it one more time, and understanding the whole notion of race, the classic racist ideologies, the fact that it's biologically unreal, the fact that we've been made to believe certain things which are not true, the fact that we have inferiority complexes over 400 years that have been placed on us, and white people have superiority complexes that they've gained from our suffering. All those things need to be understood, and I feel like we all need to become our own El Hajj, Malik Shabazz, aka Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad's, who is Farrakhan, Dr. Khalid Muhammad's, Umar Johnson's, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, all those people, Dr. Shola Moshe Ogbamimi, all those people, and we all have to start to understand our own history, our own culture, our own identity, self-determination, Kuji Chagliar. And once we understand all those things, I think we can move forward to a more equal society. But I think it all starts with education and widespread education.
Ignorance as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Because ignorance is a huge thing, because a lot of people, you can be educated, you can know facts, and you can know what someone says. But if you're ignorant, if you only want to hold what you think, and if you only want to listen to what you know and what you experience and no one else's, then a movement will not happen. That person will not change. And I feel like ignorance is something that really needs to be targeted, because like even in these protests, people will say, oh, why are they looting? Why are they rioting? They can sit at home and do a change.org post and look how much that's changed. And it's like,
the thing with this, one thing though, the thing with this is that we're assuming that all people want change.
True.
That's the assumption that's being made inherently in this argument by you. You're assuming that all people want change. And I can tell you from what I saw yesterday, and those EDL people that came across from, I don't know where they came from, but they came to London, they started fighting the police. I can tell you that not all people want change, it seems. A lot of people are happy with the way it is and they want it to continue. And so there's another argument. So what do you say to those people?
I honestly see that as blatant ignorance. I honestly say that those people with that solid mindset, it's just ignorance.
Blatant ignorance?
Yeah. And racism. I mean, clearly racism, because it's EDL. We know that's racist. I feel like... Yeah, go on.
Wait, I have to disagree one more time. I think ignorance is one of those words which you use on somebody that is uneducated, but it's a position from them being uneducated and them not understanding what they are doing. I don't want to give those EDL protesters the benefit of calling them ignorant. I don't think that they were ignorant. I think they knew exactly what they were doing. And to use the word ignorant denotes the fact that they weren't knowing to the full extent what they were doing. But I really think that they were, regardless of how senseless their sort of motives were. I do think that it wasn't necessarily ignorant. A lot of those people were 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, dads, uncles, fathers, all those type of people that were there. So I wouldn't say they're ignorant. I wouldn't say that they're uneducated. I would say a lot of veterans were there as well that served in the wars. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't say they're necessarily ignorant. I don't want to give them that innocence of calling them ignorant. I think it was premeditated. They knew exactly what they were doing. If there was any BLM protesters there, they would have clashed with them, and it was on purpose. And I think that the BLM sort of movement was very, very smart. They played chess, not checkers, and they knew
Yeah.
to withdraw because guess what? If they had gone yesterday and they clashed with those EDL protesters, guess what would have happened? Guess
They
what the
would
news would
be
have done?
the media would have called them all thugs and everything.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's exactly what they were hoping for. They were hoping for a propaganda win.
Mm. Just looking at some of these comments, Tyrell says, yeah, on relation to our media discussion and manipulation, he says, yeah, like I used to be Muslim and every Muslim I know is nothing like media. It's disgusting what they do. It's true, actually. It's absolutely true.
Wait, bro,
How,
you know you're far behind, by the way. Like,
am I?
yeah,
How far?
like that must have been like 10 minutes, 20 minutes ago, 10 minutes
What was
ago.
it? Oh,
Yeah, you need to scroll up.
oh man. I like John's comment. Big brainwashing company for the BBC.
No, but I think we should get John on here. You know,
Yeah, we should, actually.
John,
John,
I want to
you're
hear your
gonna,
opinion.
John,
John,
you're gonna pop up.
we
I'm
need a
gonna read
diversity of opinion.
I'm gonna read these past few comments, and you're gonna answer this question. So first of all, I think a large part of what we do, oh, I think a large part of what we have to do is to make most people put those who don't want to change out of power. Thoughts?
I think a large part of what we have to do is make most people who don't want to change. Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and that's why I'm apolitical because I don't believe in particularly being on Labour's side or being on the Conservative side. The only side I'm on is my people's side and my side, and what exactly we can gain. So I think one of the biggest misconceptions is automatically attaching yourself as a black person to the Labour Party because they know that they can get your vote automatically just being a black person.
Yeah.
So I think what's important is that you assess both sides. You assess the Labour side, you assess the Tory side, and then you think about which particular side is actually going to help me and my people, and then you choose that side for the vote. But I don't believe in automatically voting for Labour because they're not necessarily the ones to make reform. If they know that they have your vote automatically, there's not much they're going to do to help you because they know they've already got your vote. I feel like these political parties have to earn my vote and they have to earn black people's vote. So I feel like it's very important that we really assess what happens and what policies are really progressive for us before we start voting for parties.
I think it's really difficult because I think, as we were saying earlier, a lot of people who are involved in this Black Lives Matter movement, a lot of people who, I mean, come on, brands are going to be advertising about it, saying, oh yeah, Black Lives, Black Lives. Political parties are going to be advertising for it now, just like how they were advertising for all of this Greenpeace stuff the second we started caring about it. So now everyone's going to look like they're campaigning for Black Lives. Watch conservatives saying, yeah, let's go. And what are you going to say? Because it looks like they want change. Oh, sorry, I should have done that the other way. It looks like they want change, and it looks like they want to bring a forwards movement. But how do you tell the mindset of the person who is leading the people? We need more of our people in power and going up.
That is one. Well, I don't want to say that lightly. I don't want to just say we need more of our people. We need more people of our people that are conscious. Because a lot of times you get the token BAME person or the token this, token that, and they don't actually do anything which is progressive for our people at the end of the day. They just do things because they're representative. We saw this with Obama, and I wouldn't say it's Obama's fault, but he was put in a place where he was compromised and he couldn't do anything because he was that token black person. What he had to do was cater to the other voters instead of catering to black issues. So you could see that in the Senate where they filibustered him. They waited till the last day to approve Obamacare. They did multiple things to sort of stop Obama doing anything progressive. And then the worst part is that they got him to go to Libya and then now kill Gaddafi. So they got him, they used him as a pawn to kill Gaddafi, the establishment. And it's one of those things where you have to be very cognizant of what is actually going on and really think deeply about where you're placing your vote. Am I just placing my vote because the person is a black person? Or am I placing my vote because this is a black person who's actually going to help me and my people? It's one of those ones.
Yeah, for real. Fact. I'm gonna look at as Akasan's question before we go to John, because I want to put John up on here. So first of all, how do you educate those ignorant people? I assume that was to me because I was the one who used the phrase ignorance. I would say that those who are ignorant about the situation, and obviously, like William said, we shouldn't call them ignorant because obviously we're giving them the freedom to get away with it, and they have enough privilege already to believe that it doesn't happen. So I think what I'm saying is that we need to speak with those around us and not feel afraid to bring this up as a topic, to speak to people around us and have a conversation to say, look, I experienced this and this is my view on this and this hurts me. And if you don't care, then clearly you're blind. And to tell the people around us, to educate the people around us, our neighbors who, I mean, my neighbors are.
Wait, one sec. It's not that clearly you're blind. That is just basically in a complicit way saying that they're still ignorant. There's a difference. Some people are just really set in their ways and they just really don't want the power structure to change. Some people are like that. Some people are genuinely want this system to continue because it's privileging them. So it's not, oh, you're blind. It's, oh, you don't care. You don't care.
That's what I mean. Like, clearly,
those people that don't care, you have to find a way to make them care. And I think the way you do that is politically and economically. You make it out of their hands. So that's what I would say. I think Tyrell said it somewhere. He said we need to pull the black vote completely and then wait for the parties to negotiate with us. That's exactly what we need to do. We need to there's enough of us in the UK to have some sort of political weight. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to come together, whether that's in a union or something, and all the black votes are
black
pulled.
party or something.
I don't think we're a minority, so I don't think that would make a difference.
But they have loads of minority groups. I feel like they could if they marketed it correctly.
But who would vote apart from black people?
That's true.
Like that's the thing. Like because you're a minority, you don't get the political advantage. But what you can do, and also there's first past the post, which is prohibiting other parties apart from Labour and Conservatives to really contest realistically. So what we can do is form our vote into some sort of pressure group or something.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And whatever side seems to want to comply, that's the side which gets the vote. They have to earn it. They have to work for the vote. There's no way you're getting my vote for doing nothing. You have to actually earn the vote.
Yeah. Okay, let's go on to John.
Okay, if I leave.
Okay, so John says, first of all, the patriots that came yesterday are not against Black Lives Matter. They are against the Antifa thugs that were defacing our memorials and statues. What are your thoughts?
I'm just a bit confused about that statement, John.
Okay, cool. So John's.
I think that I don't know. There is a sort of unwillingness to accept the facts. The fact of the matter is that the patriots, or whatever you call them, I think patriots is even a sugar-coated word because they weren't. They were thugs. The thugs that came yesterday to cause trouble with the police. Even if their sole purpose was to sort of protect the memorials that were defaced, one, they were already protected. They were in Churchill's statue was already protected in some sort of metal caging, and then two, there was Nazi salutes. Yeah. So I'm just a bit confused. If Churchill is the one which you claim, one of your people claimed was the ones to defeat the Nazis, why is it that there were Nazi salutes as well? Because to me, it doesn't seem like patriots. It doesn't seem like people that are attacking Antifa. What this seems to me is thugs who want the system to stay the same. I don't know how you separate. Maybe your idea of patriotism is a bit different to mine. I think my idea of patriotism is loving the country regardless of whether they've done things wrong. I think your idea is more of like a nationalistic idea of just your country's better than others. Their experiences shouldn't be sort of expressed. Oh, you want to come on?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, say nothing. I'm coming off. John can do his thing.
Okay, cool.
Right, in a bit.
Bye. Okay, cool. So this is going to be an interesting response, John. John, I give the floor to you. Honestly, this is on you now. So I'm waiting for you to come up. Yeah. Hello. Yo, what's up? Go on. Hello. I can't hear you. Okay. You have no audio, but I think.
All right, can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, we can. Cześć, co tam u siebie?
It's all good
Hey,
here, mate. It's all good here. How are you?
so we're good. What's your thoughts? Go on, tell us,
All
explain.
right, let's get to it. Let's get to it. Obviously, first of all, I got to condone the actions of the EDL and the thugs that came. Of course, they were thugs. I'm not going to deny that. That attacked the police. That's completely wrong, and they should be arrested and dealt with, obviously. But I think a lot of people that came, especially veterans, they
Mm,
just came because there comes a point where it gets too much. Like with the defacing of especially the statue of Churchill, someone who's in, such a big figure in our history. I understand some people might not like him, and that's fair enough. But he was a big figure nonetheless, and for me, I see him as a hero. And to then see people defacing his statue is just really, really, it just it gets our blood boiling. That's why lots of people turned up, and obviously, so obviously I condone all the violence, but I also have to say if you're cate- I mean I don't condone the violence. Sorry, that
yeah,
sounds very silly,
yeah, no,
but
yeah.
obviously, but then you can't just categorize the whole march as violent because I could do that with Black Lives Matter if, using that logic. Because obviously there were a few, I'm the majority of Black Lives Matter is peaceful. I mean, don't condemn. I know that was wrong from me. But the majority of Black Lives Matter was peaceful, and I understand that. But there were a few
Mm,
that came out and defaced the statues, and that was the whole point of the march yesterday, to show that we do love our country. These people clearly don't love our country. If you're going to come and you know you know just disrespect the people who fought for us in this war,
mm,
in these wars, you just there has to be, and the police clearly didn't care. They let these thugs do whatever they wanted. So, people just felt that they had to come out. And obviously, it didn't turn out well. And I could totally understand, it was kind of an embarrassment at the end, like with all the fighting.
mm,
But so obviously, that's wrong. That's completely wrong. And with the Nazi salute comment,
mm,
from what I've seen on Twitter, I've seen the videos of people saying and showing the videos of the Nazi salutes. But
yeah,
honestly, if you look closely, I think they're just putting their hands out and chanting. Because if you be like, I go to a lot of football games. If you go, they're not trying to do Nazi salutes there. It's just when you chant, you put your hands out. What's done is to express yourself. Obviously, if I'm wrong and someone did actually do, or there was a group that were doing Nazi salutes, then completely don't condone that. That's completely wrong, obviously, and they're just, that makes the whole
mm,
thing wrong, because the whole reason we were out there was to show our support for the man who beat the Nazis. And at the end of the day, I was going to go to the march, but when the statues were boarded up and the memorial, I didn't see a point anymore, because I realized that the EDL and those other and the Football Lads Alliance that came as well, obviously they wanted violence, and I can't be part of that. So I didn't
mm,
go in the end, because I think, to be fair, it was a good solution. I don't like Sadiq Khan, but that was an all right solution. It stopped it, and also props to Black Lives Matter, obviously, for calling off their march. That was it's the bigger thing to do, and to be fair, but also with the meat. So I think we have a lot of agreements, to be honest. Like with the media, I completely agree. Completely biased. You know,
mm,
it's ridiculous at this point. You can't trust anything really, and even
mm.
the stuff that's on, they'll leave some stuff out purposely. So it's not just that you can't trust what's on. You also can't trust that they're showing everything. So
Mm.
you know, why don't I like
So,
Sadiq Khan? All right,
yeah.
shall I go to the first questions? All right, so
Um,
condemn.
so wait.
Ty-
First of all. So, on your opinion of the protests that happened with EDL getting involved, Um, and some of the people who felt that they should be there to support the statues, to support everything that had been taken down. What do you have to
Yeah,
say about some of the footballers and some of the guys who were there who were seen peeing on the statues,
yeah, I saw
and
that.
completely defacing it? It would seem that they had intentionally gone out there to pay respects towards
Mm.
these statues and to show, yeah, no, this is our country. But
Yeah,
clearly
yeah,
they're
yeah.
just defacing it themselves.
Yeah, obviously,
Um, yeah,
yeah, obviously to answer that, obviously that guy who I saw that took a piss right next to the memorial of that police. He's got arrested now. He handed himself in. So obviously what he did was wrong. It was disgusting. I condemn that as much as I condemn the Antifa who don't condemn. Wait, condemn. Yeah, sorry, I keep getting confused. But I condemn that as much as I. Oh shit, I'm saying the wrong thing. It's I don't condone that. Wait, I
mm,
don't condemn that as much as I don't condemn the the Antifa who were, graffitiing the memorials and all that. So, it's the same wrong. I'm not gonna, act because, that's because I, you know, trying to fight for this cause. I'm not just gonna be blind and say that was all right. Of course it wasn't. And
okay,
yeah,
so yeah.
yeah,
So I'm gonna give you about 7 minutes. We're gonna go through a few questions. Because we don't have much time, we can only do an hour long call.
right.
So let's do question one, which is my own question. How do you feel racism has affected you as a white Polish boy in the UK?
Um, honestly, obviously, my like I guess my mum's friend was kind of you know my mum's friend was abused for like told to go back to her country, but that's the extent of anything that I've you know like that wasn't me or anything else hasn't really been a problem. Obviously, that I'm not trying to deny that there aren't racists in this country. I'm not trying to say that, but so for me it's been all right. I guess okay, you can say that's because I'm white, but you know
Okay.
um yeah.
Question two. What makes Churchill a hero to you?
Well, he helped massively to beat the biggest racists, uh, one of the biggest racists of our time, uh, the Nazis. I mean, if it wasn't for him, you know, it wouldn't be unlikely that instead of that Winston Churchill statue, there'd be a different man there, and instead of the British flags, there'd be a red flag with a swastika in the middle. So, and obviously that would be a lot worse. Like, you know, that would be terrible for anyone of color and of certain religions, obviously, as we all know. So, and I do understand though that he did say some things about Indians, and so obviously that is wrong. I'm not saying that I agree with everything that he said, but I do. But towards when World War II started, he did kind of start to change his views, and he did say that he did because then as the Brits were fighting with people from other countries, he did then towards the end of it, he said that he no longer believes that the white man is superior. So he did at first. I acknowledge that. That's really bad. Of course, we got I condone that. But at the end of the day, what he did for this country was great,
So
and
why
for the
don't you
world.
like Sadiq Khan?
Sadiq Khan. Well, I think that all he does is plays this game of being politically correct. He doesn't. Ever since he's come in, the stabbings have gone up. Everything's gone up. Like for example, the many things he talks about political correctness is like he stopped bag checks, which because some people got offended because at the end of the day, like that is a factor that if people stop getting checked, then they can have knives on them and other stuff. So that is clearly wrong. And also, yeah, it's just like, for example, just everything, to me, for example, yesterday he just categorizes everyone that came to the march yesterday as far right. It's just, they're not far right. They just love this country. And at the end of the day, if we're at a point that you can't love your country because you're called far right, that is a problem. That is a problem. You should be able to be patriotic. I'm half Polish and I'm half English, and I love both sides, and I love England, and I'm not scared to say that. And I love Poland. I'm not scared to say that. So at the end of the day, I'm a patriot. It doesn't mean I disagree with Black Lives Matter, even though I don't stand with everything they stand for. You know, obviously the phrase Black Lives Matter, I completely agree, but the organization, Black Lives Matter, not everything they stand for, I can agree with. But obviously, I'm not trying to say that there's no racism, and obviously we should do everything in our power to, you know, to change this. And for anyone that has experienced racism, obviously I won't understand fully, and I completely, you know, my heart is with you, and you know that's a terrible thing, and we need to do what we can to get these racists in jail, and you know.
Yeah, I understand that. Thank you very much for your time and your opinions. We're gonna go back to William now.
All
So
right, cheers.
cool.
All right, bye.
So that was, I mean, I can understand here as mediator between these two, as I listen to what William is about to say, the evidence, the arguments. Okay, let's go.
Oh, oh God.
Go on.
Oh,
Serious.
God. That was a really heartfelt, half-hearted sorry from John. But I have to disagree. I'm so sorry. I just feel like in certain, I feel like you're seeing things from a certain perspective, right? So you think that the Black Lives Matter was sort of taken away by like Antifa thugs who decided that they wanted to deface the statues, but then you don't really want to agree with the reason why. And that's why you need to understand why this happened. It's because of the racist past. It's because of the racist history. It's because of all those racist elements, including Winston Churchill, who's been a part of that. Whether or not, I don't think he should get kudos for saying, I don't think the white man is superior. So you've accepted that you had racist beliefs, and you're going to get kudos for that. Excuse me, you're still complicit in racism. So whether you accept the racism or not, and you don't make policies to really undo that, it doesn't make a difference to me. I can say that I don't think that white people are superior to me. I don't think that black people are superior. Should I get kudos for that? I don't completely understand why that takes away from all the other things that he's done to show that he's clearly a racist. But anyway, that's my point of view. So yeah, as I was saying, I just think you need to sort of understand that, okay, yes, you may not understand what black people have gone through, or you may not feel like you could ever experience it, but you can try and appreciate the suffering that we've gone through. And a good indicator of this is the fact that you weren't at the BLM march, even though you say that your heart is with us, but you'd rather be at the one for defending the statue of Winston Churchill. So you sort of have to weigh up whether you're really clear, or what you're really clear on. Are you just saying that because you want to feel a bit empathetic, or are you saying that because you truly want to make a change? Because one of the things of being a racist is also being complicit in the system. So just because you might not disagree with racism in your head, it doesn't mean that you're now anti-racist. You have to actively go out and make it a lifestyle to be anti-racist throughout your life. So I'm not saying that he's not an important part, but he's also a racist part. And whether or not you were, like, even though you weren't oppressed necessarily by those things that he did, other black people were. I mean, in the war efforts, I mean, black people still had to go through things as well. Although although it may seem like, you know, the war was a time where we were all unified, this and that, there was still racist elements in the army. Black people weren't given certain rights that other officers were given. So the deaths they died deaths of being inferior. They had the martial races, so like the Punjabi people from India come across and fight wars for them in some sort of colonial sort of setup. They had all these things. So I think you have to really understand the extent to which we've been oppressed, and really open your ears a little bit, because I think it's all well and good saying the Churchill statue shouldn't have been defaced, but you're saying that from a privileged perspective where you haven't had to suffer from 400 years of racism or colonialism. But what about the people that have? We have, and we have to suffer with it every single day. You have a privilege to not be able to even think of that in your mind. But what you come to is not the BLM protest, you come to the EDL one, which is basically a counter protest. So you really have to think about where your priorities lie. If you claim to be somebody that's anti-racist, you actually have to make those steps to be anti-racist.
You see, I think it's the same as asking what is the main aims of the EDL. other than to
I mean,
be.
I think that's even, in my opinion, that is even a provocating question, because you're asking somebody who's not the BLM leader about what the main aims of the BLM is. I think you don't necessarily. Why do you feel like you can ask just a random black person that
I mean,
question? That in
I'm
itself.
not gonna lie. I think the Black Lives Matter movement lacks organization. Only because I don't see anything that's happening. I'm not seeing anyone saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to move here and target this." But clearly, someone is, because even pulling out of a protest the other day and exposing those who were on the EDL, those who were right wing or whatever they call it, that clearly someone is organizing it and someone is up there making the points. We just don't know about it. And obviously, in every crowd that we see, like for example, some of those rioting in America, because I can only give that as an example right now. Some of those rioting and those going into stores breaking stuff, they're not even Black Lives Matter people. They're just people getting involved for their own personal gain. And I think the problem is we have a lot of confusion that's happening right now. And history is just going to show it in the white way. And it's down to how things are perceived. Like we both agree on, media is manipulative. But go on, William, you have your point to say. Remember, we only have 4 minutes left. So
This is in regards to the movement, like sort of the leadership of the BLM movement. I think in the UK, I do think I agree with you that the BLM sort of movement does need a bit more sort of leadership. It needs a bit more direction. It needs to necessarily know where it's going. But at the end of the day, I don't think you're entitled enough to ask me those questions, because unfortunately, your ancestors have been part of the oppression that I've had to face, and my ancestors have had to face for the last 400 years. So I feel like what you should do, instead of asking questions, is just listen a bit more. And once you listen a bit more, then you can start asking those questions. But you have to be able to be willing to listen, instead of, because I feel like the question came from more of a counter argument sort of response, rather than I'm genuinely willing to try and find out what the leadership is like. And I think when it comes from a counter argument sort of sense and a sort of a rebuttal sort of question, that's where I feel like you may need to probably listen a bit more, understand, and be a bit more empathetic to not only Winston Churchill, who may I say is dead, but the living people who have been oppressed for over 400 years.
I would love to see this in a proper discussion. I think we should have this. We are having this actually, I should reveal, as a topic in our Step Correct chats, which will be uploaded very soon, very shortly. This series will cover a range of topics, and we aim to have them about 20 minutes long. But I would love to see this as an ongoing series, an ongoing topic of discussion, if
Definitely.
you guys are able to come to this, and more people, because I see these points coming up and I see how we're coming to our conclusion. We're coming to the argument, the main part, and we only have 2 minutes left, and it's so annoying. So what we need to do is we need to get this topic and lengthened. We need to plan more stuff like this so that we can continue this this conversation, and allow more insight into what's happening. I would like to thank everyone for their participation in these the View Live today. I know it was in 2 sections and it was awkwardly done and it was advertised last minute, but thank you guys for your participation and for getting involved. I would like to thank everyone who came online today, who joined, which was John, Tyrell, John Paul, and yeah, I
Jonelle,
remember
Atian, Amy, all those people.
all of you guys.
Thank you. Big up.
And thank you so much. Remember to share InstaView. If you have any ideas that can be put in, don't hesitate to share your opinion with us and to give us some tips on what to do. Thank you so much for your participation, and would like to see you next time, where we can have another live view on View Live. Thank you.
Signing out.
Cool.
Oh, Flip, it's still here.
Yeah.
I have to cut it. I tried to make this in line.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna end.